Good afternoon or good evening, Facebook, wherever you are. I'm here, West Los Angeles, Pacific time zone, getting ready to watch the late game ahead of getting ready to do Undisputed tomorrow from 9:30 to noon on Fox Sports 1. What a wild day it was in the National Football League, prompting me to talk about it, spill about it here before the late Raiders at Washington game. And unfortunately, the wildness started last night thanks to a tweet from our president. I'm going to talk about that briefly in just a moment, but a quick cameo. Somebody wants to say hello to you who watched all the games with me this afternoon because their mom was out shopping and doing various other chores. And hi, this is Hazel, our 11-month-old Maltese. Thank you, Ernestine. Hi, Hazel. How are you? She's kind of mellowed out right now. She's a little crazy a little while ago. Hi, Hazel. Hi, Hazel. Look, look. Oh, thank you. Thank you. She likes to clean my nose. Now my nose is clean, so now that I got a clean nose, I can talk about all that has gone on. What a wild day it was. One of the best basic week 3 regular season NFL weekend Sundays that I can remember, starting obviously with a complete wipeout of the Ravens in England. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of that game. My Sunday mornings, I got other things I have to do, but such as going to church. But other than that, Jacksonville they are stout on defense. They just keep loading up. And if you catch them at the wrong place at the wrong time, 44-7 happens. But in that time frame, something else was going on. Obviously, our president tweeted last night and also spoke yesterday in Alabama. And I try not to get too political. I know most of you come to our show on Undisputed to hear us talk about sports. I've never been very political, but I didn't vote for this man. So I'm kind of neutral on the issue here. I listen to Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed because he has just laid claim to this topic and story, the Colin Kaepernick story. I told Shannon from the start, I'm a God and country guy. God over country, but God and country. And as much as I cringed the first time I saw Colin Kaepernick, what did he do first? Kneel? Did he kneel first for the anthem? Yeah, I cringed, and then I heard him speak, and then I heard him speak again, and as we launched Undisputed a year ago on September 6th, right out of the box, I'm saying I loved what he said. I loved the reason for which he was protesting during our national anthem. I don't love the method of the protest, but it worked. And I believe that Colin Kaepernick had extraordinary national impact on this country. I'm going on just my gut feeling. Just take it from my perspective. I really think it worked. I think it planted some seeds of doubt in a lot of white policemen's minds across this country. And I don't know that for a fact. I'm just talking like a white guy, I guess. But that's my gut feeling, is that I think it made a lot of white people I know open their eyes and their ears and maybe even their hearts to the plight of the black community at the hands, especially of white cops, occasionally other colors of cops, across this country. And it was an issue that needed to be addressed, and I was so proud of Shannon Sharpe and our show Undisputed for addressing it from the start. I still applaud Colin Kaepernick for basically risking and sacrificing his National Football League job to make that statement. And then this year it's dwindled down a little bit. It was Colin who set the tone, who blazed the trail. And I know there have been others who have protested, but out of left field comes our president, who I just personally think, and I'm going to get deeper into this on Undisputed tomorrow, so please join us from 9:30 to noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. He's just unraveling. I'm horrified. I mean, that was the behavior of a spoiled brat 8-year-old acting out, saying, oh, you don't like what I'm doing? Okay, I'll just do it worse the next time. and he's obviously desperately flailing, attempting to gain some popularity back from the rightest of the right. And maybe some people will like it, but a whole lot of people didn't. And I'm going to say this again. I've said it a couple times on Undisputed. In the craziest way, I think Donald Trump has been the greatest thing for the black community in our country. It has united the black community. It has fueled the black community. And it has drawn, I believe, a lot of sympathy from the white community that might not have been there before. This was so out of line, and to use the SOB, it's horrifying to me. And I'm fearful, not just for the black community in this case, but bigger picture just for our country. And we all knew what was going to happen. Everybody's going to protest today. And I like what Mike Tomlin did. I was touched by it. I'm a big fan, as I've said many times on TV, of Mike Tomlin. If I could play in the NFL, I would want to play for Mike Tomlin. And he said he was tired of his players having to choose, because some players obviously just believe in the flag above all and honoring the flag and all those who died for it. I get that. And then some are torn black and white because they so believe in why Colin Kaepernick protested to begin with. Good for them. Great for them. Great for everybody. So now the president, with that blast yesterday and the following tweet, forced everyone in those locker rooms to choose. Well, am I going to do this or that? This or that? Am I going to disrespect the flag, or am I going to honor those who are protesting what needs to get protested? And Mike Tomlin just finally said, okay, we're out. We're not even going to come out for the national anthem because I'm tired of you, to the president, dividing our team. Now it looks like he's dividing our nation. I was very happy that Roger Goodell and many of the owners used the word divisive, because that's what it is. You're splitting us apart. We have problems in this country. I always say on Undisputed, clearly we have huge racial issues in this country that need to be addressed, but they need to be addressed as a we, not a us versus them. And now it's become so split down the middle, and it horrifies me. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with Shannon Sharp tomorrow, with Greg Jennings tomorrow, former Packer receiver with obviously Aaron Rodgers, who just pulled one out in overtime. And it's just sickening and horrifying to me. And now the one thing, you know, the whole idea that our president would sort of attack the NFL, saying that it's losing popularity and he's encouraging fans to walk out. It's just not going to happen. It's like the last straw. It's the greatest game in this country to me. It has become America's pastime, and even took a shot at he can't watch it anymore because they're calling cheap penalties. It almost came across like he wants more bloodlust. He wants more rock'em sock'em football. I don't know. And again, I'm not even political. I didn't vote for him. I'm just sort of removed from it. I don't follow it that closely, but it feels like a small man, an extremely insecure man, somehow won the biggest job in the world, at least in the free world. So back to quote unquote reality or unreality, back to the football field. The irony here is that Robert Kraft took on a man that he has said is one of his closest friends, Donald Trump. He made an anti-Trump statement before his game against the Houston Texans up in Foxborough. And remember, Robert Kraft was the man who said, after he lost his longtime wife, Myra, that only one of his friends went out of his way to call Robert Kraft at least once a week for the next year, and that was Donald Trump. And you can just tell when Kraft tells the story, he's speaking from his heart, and he just likes him as a friend, but he's made it clear he doesn't always agree with his politics. I believe that Tom Brady liked playing golf occasionally with Donald Trump in an off season. Everybody who plays with Trump says he's a lot of fun to play with. I don't know. I haven't played with him. But obviously Tom Brady had the hat in his locker, Make America Great Again hat. And then he has completely distanced himself from Donald Trump. And he may be a little chagrined over how that came across. And he came out and protested with his teammates. I think he was locked arms with, I can't remember, maybe it was Philip Dorsett before the game. And now let's go back to just football. Tom Brady put on another all-time great show. And so did Deshaun Watson. And I said this before his draft late May. I said every team that passes Deshaun Watson will live to regret it, starting with the Cleveland Browns. And I'm going to be right about this one. This young man is very, very special. I've raved about his poise and his playmaking, his leadership, and his legs as well as his arm, and his accuracy and his clutchness. He's got the whole package. He doesn't have a huge arm, but it's better than average if you saw the game today. And he can throw darts. When he's locked in, and he wasn't locked in last year during the regular season except for when he played Lamar Jackson at Clemson. But in those two games against the best defense in college football, St. Nick's defense, as Shannon Sharp says, man, Deshaun Watson, he just lit them up. What do you have, almost 1,000 total yards against the best defense in college football on the biggest stage in college football, national championship with all the money on the table. Wow. What two performances. He barely lost one and then barely won one. And unfortunately, he barely lost the job of the Houston Texans after I'd said, coming right out of the draft the next Monday, I said, if Bill O'Brien is smart enough to just hand this job and the reins to this franchise to Deshaun Watson from the start and forget about his pet, Tom Savage, and let Deshaun take over this team through the OTAs, through the preseason camp, and then through the preseason games, he'll be ready to do exactly what Dak did as a rookie for the Dallas Cowboys this year for the Houston Texans. But no, Bill O'Brien, too full of himself to do that. Just absurd. And he goes with Tom Savage against Jacksonville in game number 1 at Houston, and they couldn't protect Tom Savage, and he was a disaster, lost a couple of fumbles, and they got their butts kicked the way the Ravens did today, that at home by Jacksonville, and it was humiliation. He threw Deshaun Watson into the fire late. He was hit and miss. Then they go up to Cincinnati. It's a pretty tough place. Listen, Cincinnati can flat out play defense when they get rolling. And it was a battle, as you know, that Thursday night in Cincinnati. But guess who won it? Deshaun Watson won it as a rookie quarterback. And then they were 14-point underdogs going to Foxborough. Dak didn't have to face quite that big of a challenge, that mountain. And Deshaun Watson was spectacular at New England today. Made play after play. He made a couple of mistakes. He's going to, but made plays with his legs, made play with his arms, and all of a sudden they were in position to pull off the upset of the year in pro football at Foxborough. Obviously, Kansas City wiped them out in the opener with they were losing 27-21 going to the fourth. But that was 21-0 Kansas City. But this would have been seen as a big upset. And in the end, Tom Brady was as spectacular as he has ever been. He is getting better at age 40. They couldn't protect for him today because Marcus Cannon, I think their best offensive lineman, was out. And think of the line they're going up against. It's J.J. Watt. It's Jadeveon Clowney. It's Merciless. They got a couple other linebackers who can create havoc. Zach Cunningham from my school, Vanderbilt. Bad day for Vanderbilt yesterday, 52-0 to Alabama. We may talk about that tomorrow on Undisputed. I tried to give Shannon Sharp 21 points. I said it's going to be a mismatch, and he was a little too afraid of my football program to do that as much as he loves him some Bama. So we may we may talk about that tomorrow briefly, but in this case, man, Tom Brady was all-time spectacular, all-time clutch. This is another one for the mantle. This is another one for the trophy case. Against that line with that much pressure, and they had a hard time. He was getting his arm hit right and left. One popped up in the air. Jadeveon took it all the way back for a touchdown. And yet, having to move the way he moves in the pocket, which is spectacular. People coming this way and that way. I didn't see a whole lot of J.J. Watt, which is interesting to me because Bill Belichick last week once again compared J.J. Watt with Lawrence Taylor. Are you kidding me? So that's now 6 games that J.J. Watt has played against Bill Belichick's teams, and he has a grand total of a half a sack in those 6 games. Really. He made 1 play against the run early today. He did have 6 tackles. He always has like 4 to 6 tackles. Not exactly dominating. And he had no sacks again today. So I don't get it. Overhyped. Way, way, way overhyped. Best play J.J. Watt's made all years when Andy Dalton on that Stanford band play, the lateral play, lateral in that Thursday night game, Andy Dalton dared to throw it backward across the field to his center, 305-pound center, Russell Bodine. Really? Andy, you threw it to your center? What are you thinking? I couldn't believe the center caught it. And then J.J. Watt had a sitting duck head start, build up steam tackle of Russell Bodine. And he said he body slammed him. I didn't really see a body slam, but that's all he's got so far this year. And yet they are so lucky to have Deshaun Watson, who's going to ignite that franchise. There's talent there on both sides of the ball, and it manifested itself in Foxborough until Tom Brady finally said no. And that fling late to Brandon Cooks was just spectacular. Then he goes for 2 and hits that. So now Deshaun had to pull off a field goal. And he completes his first pass, desperation, and the clock's running, and he's looking at the sideline. And I tweeted Bill O'Brien was a boob in this case because he was a boob. It's just, what are you doing? Bill O'Brien's choking, I guess, because the rookie quarterback's saying, what do we do? And then he tries to call timeout, and they lose 10 seconds, and they end up having to throw a Hail Mary instead of having one more shot with the potential to hit a, 15, 20-yard pass, and then maybe a field goal to force overtime. Nope, didn't happen. Tom Brady, all-time greatest and getting better at age 40. I've never seen anything like it before. That was about as great a game as he ever played under the circumstances with the pass rush. Wow. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, almost threw for 400 yards against that defense. Whew. Which brings me to a game I picked. We picked 2 close games on Undisputed on Friday. Again, it's 9:30 to noon Eastern time on Fox Sports 1. We picked the Lions versus Atlanta in Detroit, and I went with the upset. I said I was way out on the end of the limb. I just like to watch Matt Stafford operate at quarterback. So what happens at the end of the game? The Lions have the ball inside the 5. He throws a little quick slant to Golden Tate, and it was really close. The refs signaled touchdown, but I'll give you this. The refs blew it. It looked like his knee touched barely, like split-second touch before the ball hit the goal line. And yet they had to review it. And then they enforce a 10-second runoff on Detroit, which I still don't quite get. I'm going to have to read up on this before tomorrow. But they got robbed, man. They got absolutely robbed. At least they deserve to have another play because it's the ref's fault, right? If they don't get it right on the field, then at least you got to give Detroit another play from what? The half-yard line? Make it the 1-yard line. I think Detroit can pull that off. If they score, I picked it 31-30 Detroit. So the final score is 30-26. If they score a touchdown, it's what, 32-30. So I would have missed it by a point. Man, well, I feel sorry for the Lions. I got to get to the bottom of this. Might have to check in with Mike Pereira of Fox fame and see exactly what's up with all of the above, because it sounds like they blew it. I'm looking at NBC right now, and there's the little pass. Boy, it looks like he scored on that. It sure, boy, it was so close. You know, I would have just gone with the call on the field. I think they got robbed twice. Detroit should have won that game. And that brings me to the other game that we picked, Seattle at Tennessee. I thought it was going to be really low scoring. I couldn't see either team scoring much, but it broke a little higher than I thought. It went up into the 30s for Tennessee, and they hung on and beat Russell Wilson and company. That is Shannon Sharp's win the Super Bowl pick, and they are teetering. I think there could be some implosion, some internal strife. Just get a bad vibe watching that team play. It's going to be defense pointing the fingers at offense, pointing the fingers at defense. And I don't think Tennessee is great, but at home, they just basically bullied the Seahawks. They ran the ball on them. Mariota makes a play or two here or there, sometimes with his legs, occasionally with his arm. I'm not the biggest fan, but all of a sudden, Shannon Sharp's Super Bowl team is 1-2. You will hear about that tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And that brings me to the New Orleans Saints. So they go, and I made one stupid pick preseason. I mean, just before the season started, I had New Orleans an NFC wildcard team. I don't know. But today they look like an NFC wildcard team because they went in and just took Carolina apart at home. And Shannon was saying last week on Undisputed, 9:30 to noon Eastern time, Fox Sports 1, that New Orleans is going to be historically bad on defense. Well, does that mean, Shannon, that Cam Newton was historically bad at quarterback? Because he had 3 interceptions today. It was just disastrous. And what about Christian McCaffrey? Where was he today, Shannon? I thought he was going to take a lot of pressure off Cam, and new toy, new direction on offense. Man, I don't know. That was a shocker. And this wasn't a shocker to me. Shannon's Denver Broncos, after he gloated all week about how Trevor Siemian has found himself and he's back on track, and they do have the answer at quarterback. Trevor Siemian throws 2 picks and they lose at Buffalo. So what I said last week stands. Denver got up for and played the equivalent of its Super Bowl against my Dallas Cowboys, a game that should have finished like 35-25 and broke open thanks to a late pick 6. They went 103 yards the other way. It broke open to 42-17, which sounds a whole lot worse than 35-25. Do I think my Cowboys are going to bounce back tomorrow night at Arizona? You bet I do. Speaking of dew, will Shannon Sharp bet a case of dew on that tomorrow? I think he will, because he is in his glory. He thinks he has the Dallas Cowboys on the run, and I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to run against the Arizona defense. And I think they're going to spread the ball around. I think that they went way too many times to Dez Bryant last Sunday at Denver, and I am so disappointed and down on Dez. I'm sorry. You just have to come up bigger than that. Dak was just going with his reads. Wait a second, I got 88 in single, 88 in single, 88 in single coverage. And he went to him again and again, and you know the rest of the story. Dez let one go right through his hands, just completely muffed it. Chris Harris took it the other direction all the way down to the 20-yard line. That was the key play in question for Ezekiel Elliott, on which he's running a downfield pass route. Help me out. How many times in his life has he run a downfield pass route past where the ball was thrown? Maybe none. So, yeah, he glances over his shoulder. It goes through Dez's hands. Chris Harris run the other way. And it wasn't a good look that Zeke stopped and put his hands on his hips. He was frustrated. He'd been running into that orange mountain wall like the Rockies that Denver had thrown up on him. So, yeah, he just turned 22. He was frustrated. But on that play, because of that play, you're going to say he absolutely quit LaDainian Tomlinson? Baloney. Baloney. Man, really, it just really angered me last week that LaDainian Tomlinson would say he absolutely quit. Did you see the hellacious block, the cut block he threw on the blitzing linebacker on the very last offensive play of the game for the Cowboys? The pick 6 that went the other way. I guess they had to finish up the game, but the last one that really mattered. And it was another throw to Dez out in the flat. I don't know what Dez was doing, but clearly he went a different way than Dak thought he was going to go, and he threw it right to Aqib Talib. And then there was the jump ball in the end zone that Des Bryant, 3-4 years ago, he just comes down with it over Bradley Roby. He's got him by, 3 inches? No. Butterfingered it. Just couldn't come down with it. But I do think the ball is going to get spread. I expect Cole Beasley to get more passes. Jason Witten got 10 last time. Terrence Williams. I just expect the ball to get spread and Zeke to be Zeke tomorrow night at Arizona. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Undisputed. And that brings me to the latest game. Have I missed one? Let me look at my sheet here. I got to talk about my man Aaron Rodgers. I didn't talk about Eagles, Giants. Odell quickly. I don't have a lot of respect for either team. As a Cowboy fan, I don't fear either team. They both have their issues. I just think Carson Wentz goes deer in headlights too often. But they pulled it out thanks to a 61-yard field goal by their rookie kicker, and it was a flat-out long-distance missile. It was something. But Eli found himself in the fourth quarter. They're trailing, 14-zip going into the fourth, and all of a sudden, he found some rhythm. All of a sudden, I don't know how, maybe Philly just got tired in their pass rush because they couldn't get to him anymore. He had time. He got in sync, and all of a sudden he got Odell involved. And yet, Odell, what are you thinking? This is just classic. So he finally catches a touchdown pass, made it 14-7, and he'd obviously planned and rehearsed doing this, which is pretty scary and creepy to think he'd be rehearsing this, but I'm pretty sure he got down on all fours, and I think he tried to make like a dog marking his territory by lifting his leg. I think that's what happened. Not totally sure. I'll have to read up on that one, but that's how it came across. Obviously, that's going to draw a flag, and it's going to cost your team 15 yards. And once again, Odell Beckham Jr. is promoting himself at the expense of his team. You just can't do it. I don't care how big you are. And he thinks he's much bigger than the team, bigger than the Big Apple. He wants to be paid not just quarterback money, beyond quarterback money. He wants to be the highest paid player at any position in the entire National Football League, which is just preposterous. That's still a troubled team. I know they must feel a little better about themselves even at 0-3. I'm sure Philly, has planned to throw a Super Bowl parade tomorrow in downtown Philly, but as a Cowboy fan, not impressed, not threatened, not yet. Which brings me to the latest game, as this is about to start here on NBC, the late game. The Aaron Rodgers game. Yeah, he got hot late. I thought Andy Dalton got scared late, started closing up late, and Andy Dalton played really well. And then my man from University of Oklahoma, team I grew up liking, I've tried to defend him, even though I not in a million years will I defend how he cold-cocked that woman the first Saturday night he spent as after he got recruited to his freshman year to Norman. But he paid his price, he made his amends, and then he's acting up on the field. He's doing a lot of first downs. He's doing a lot of look-at-me's after he had his best game so far as a pro, Joe Mixon. And then on the crucial 3rd and 1 play, his feet went out from under him. I think he would have made it. Tony Romo said he wouldn't have, but who knows? It aborted. That was the end of that and the end of them. And here came Aaron Rodgers. And yet, what happened at the end or in the fourth quarter? Well, obviously Cincinnati missed a field goal that became crucial, and it was a very makeable field goal. And then in the end, this happens nearly every game that Aaron Rodgers pulls out. If you can't beat him, you trick him. So what did he do? He tricked him. He does the hard count. Happens, 2-3 times a game. Got him to jump off sides. Then the defense goes out of sync, off balance, on their heels. What are we doing? People just get a little out of their flow, and all of a sudden, it's a home run. And set them up with a chip shot field goal. And Mason Crossbar, who cost me last year at Jerry World with a 56-yarder that was the luckiest thing I'd ever seen, a dying quail that fluttered over the right crossbar, and then a 51-yarder at the buzzer that he hooked dead left, and it somehow straightened out and made it just inside the left upright. Never seen anything like that before. But this was a chip shot, and it went right down the middle, and Aaron Rodgers survives. And here come the Chicago Bears. The Bears are the weirdest team in the NFL because at home they should have beaten the Falcons, and they did beat the Steelers today with 220 yards rushing. And then they go away, and they went to Tampa, and they fell behind 29-0, and I think the final is 29-7. So hang on just a second. I got to turn this down. One second. Thought I had that off as DirecTV comes back on. So here we go with Sunday night football. And I got the Raiders at Washington. Obviously, I always root against the Redskins, but I still think if the Cowboys can win tomorrow night, they're going to be back in control of this division. So I need the Raiders to make sure that the Redskins fall to, what would that make them, 1-2. I am looking forward to talking about this game first up tomorrow morning. I'm looking very forward to talking about the protests and what's going on with our President of the United States tomorrow on Undisputed and all the games that I just highlighted. I just gave you samples of my opinions, but I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to be over-prepared for Shannon Sharp. He better be prepared or I will knock him back on his heels about all the teams that he loves, unfortunately. So I will see you tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern Time. Let me get this out of the way. On Fox Sports 1, 9:30 to noon Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. I'm speaking to you now from West Los Angeles, about a mile from the Fox studios, where we will go live in the morning, 6:30 this time, 9:30 Eastern. I will see you then. Thank you for watching and for listening. Good evening, Facebook.